Hello! Welcome to the Dad Report, a podcast for dads, by dads, about dad stuff.
Join us as we sit down and have meaningful conversations with friends, family, and coworkers.
We will talk about life, family, and so much more while working towards a goal of creating a healthy idea of what it means to be a dad. Look, Chad, I'm not the only one who has recorded in my bedroom.
I record where I do because it's on the opposite side of the house. It's the quietest place.
All right. So guest bedroom.
Guest bedroom. Okay. Well, there you go. Then. There you go.
Opposite side of the house as well, Chad. So I'm with you on that.
Now, is that a guest bedroom now that you've got your kids out off to school?
No. So actually was a office / playroom to begin with, and then we've had a couple people that we've just have come and live with us. We hosted an intern that lived with us for a little while. My mom lived with us for a little bit. My father-in-law for a couple of days. So we've just kind of kept it now as a room. So yeah, we call it a guest room, but actually it's just kind of a catch-all room right now. I had to do the shuffle, turn the lights down. There's a little,
Oh yeah.
A little bit of stuff you don't need to see, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like to blur my background out of respect for my wife because I know we got kitchen mess behind us and 1-year-old mess, and so she's like, "Please don't have that on camera." I'm like, "Okay."
Blur your background, guys. This is what happens when you get old. Where's that button?
So if you on your screen there's three little dots in like a blue box, and if you click that, it gives you a list of options, and one of them is blur your background, where you can choose a video filter or a virtual background. You can be in space if you want.
Okay, yours looks different than mine.
Was it not in the top hand?
No, it is.
Hand?
But
okay.
Again, old school over here. I don't see anything that says blur my background. I can choose a virtual. Stop my audio.
Oh, you're in the right place. Let me go there.
I don't know.
You don't have a thing that says blur my background?
Nah, I'm old, man. I haven't updated.
Maybe his Zoom's not updated. Yeah.
Bingo.
Are you PC or Mac? I mean, I guess it shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter.
Mac, it's Mac. But
I'm on Mac.
As soon as I hit update, man, it's going to ask me to change all kinds of stuff, and I'm embracing being older. Like, let my kids figure it out when they come home.
There you go. Yeah,
that's
nice.
Awesome.
Which is good. So, which actually I think they're coming. Colleges. I think Presley, my daughter, has got fall break. So she's going to get a couple of days home here soon, and then I think my son will come over and join in for the weekend. So we're going to have a little family reunion this weekend, which will be fun.
There you go.
Nice.
Which will be good.
I don't remember college doing fall break. Felt like it was just go, and then you got that nice long extended, winter break, and you're like, "That's right, high schoolers. This is what freedom looks like."
Yeah. No, I don't remember it either. So apparently, some colleges do that. And so she's coming home. So it'll be good.
Good Lord, my phone just vibrated. I apologize. I think everybody heard that.
Thanks for clarifying that it was your phone. That's all we wanted to know, man.
That's right.
Oh
right.
My.
That's right. No barking spiders, no elephants under the rug, Well, Pastor
That's
Chris,
awesome.
I don't think we ever met while I lived in Jacksonville. My name's Justin. I was over at the Bay Meadows campus for the time that we were there.
Love Bay Meadows, man. It's a great campus. Now, where are you at now? Your shirt says Gwinnett Church, so I'm guessing you're in Atlanta area somewhere.
Yes, sir. We moved back home. So we're originally from the Atlanta area. Okay. We had a 1-year-old during kind of towards the tail end of the pandemic. Well, I should say of 2020. Technically, so some people the pandemic's still going. To others, we are back in the land of the free. You can
down
take
here
or leave.
In Florida, we're like pandemic.
There ain't no COVID. What you talking about? Georgia's pretty close. It's just there's pockets of Georgia that are like COVID. But we, the kind of the short story is lease came due. We had no real reason to stay. Wife's job was remote, and she still is working remote. I knew I could kind of get a job anywhere and wherever at the time, and so we moved back up, be close to both of our parents, and then of course we get up here, and my parents moved across to the West Coast. But hey, at least we have my in-laws nearby. So.
That's right. Well, now you have a reason to visit the West Coast. So
that's right. If plane tickets weren't stupid.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah. It depends on where on the West Coast it is, though. I mean, California, Washington, or Oregon. So,
well, I've got family in 2 of those 3 states. So my parents moved to California, but they're in the desert somewhere. So more on that, I think Nevada line. I can't remember where they said, some small town full of dust. But then my brother is in the military, and he is actually stationed like 45 minutes outside of Seattle.
Yeah.
So it'd be worth it to go visit both those places, man. For sure.
Whidbey Island or Bainbridge Island or wherever that is up there, Bellingham or those kind of things. That Seattle area. Yeah, that Seattle area is beautiful. My brother lives there, so that's
okay. Yeah, he sends us photos all the time, and we're all like drooling. We're like, man, that's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, well it is 3 months out of the year. So.
Yeah, when it's not raining and whatever else.
That's right.
This is a state where when there's sun, people take the day off of work.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
that instant dopamine hit.
We do. God did create the entire world, but if he takes a vacation, it's in Washington, and it is sometime between July and October.
So on the 7th day when he rested, he was resting in Washington.
That's right. Listen, there is a song, "The Bluest Skies Are in Seattle," so it's true. It's true. Oh man.
Well, welcome to the Dad Report. We're glad you could make it.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Chad, do you want to introduce to our listeners who we're chatting with?
Yeah, so let's just jump right in. So, actually, you know what? I'm gonna just pass it on over. So, Pastor Cris Garrard, you still have never told me if I'm saying your name right, so I'm going with it.
That is correct. You say it the way that I say it, so that's good.
Awesome.
That's all that matters.
See, he'll never say you're wrong. He's like, say it however you want.
Listen, ultimately, I just say, I don't care how you say it. If you spell it right on the check, I'm totally fine, right?
Bingo. There you go.
Yes.
Or at least a name tag or something.
That's right.
So, Pastor Cris, we have known each other for quite a while, and thank you for coming on with us. And why don't you just take a minute and just introduce yourself? I know we have a few listeners who go to 1122. We have some that are in Justin's neck of the woods who say 1120 what? So
lunchtime.
Yeah. So why don't you just take a minute and introduce yourself?
All right. How far back do you want to go? No, I'm kidding. Hey, yeah. So my name's Cris Garrard, and currently live in Atlantic Beach, Florida, which is a small town outside of Jacksonville, out at the beaches, and I have. Married to a wonderful wife, Lon. This past July, celebrated 26 years for being married. 2 great kids, Presley 21, Cooper 18. And we've lived in the Jacksonville area for 15 years. Lived in the Seattle area for 6 and a half. And then we met and married in the Tallahassee area. So, and then I got family from Georgia, but I currently have the opportunity to serve at 1122, the Church of 1122. And as Chad said, man, he and I have known each other, been part of that movement for, it started as a service in a church, and that was 14 years ago. And then we launched as a church 10 years ago. And so I've had an opportunity to be part of that since the launch. And really, man, my heart beating, what I do is serve people by caring for them. And so started my role as a chaplain for the church, and then just a little over 5 years or so ago, I stepped into the role as a campus pastor. Church of 1122 has multiple campuses, and so I get to serve the people of our San Pablo campus as the campus pastor. And so I love what I do. I always often say, I love where I live. So this is where I live. This is what I get to do. And this is the people I get to do it with. And all three of those things remind me to be grateful every single day for what it is I get to do and who I get to do it with. Folks like Chad and Justin, you being at Bay Meadows, you experience that as well. And so,
Yeah.
so I love it, man. Love being a dad, love being a husband, love doing what I get to do. And I'm just severely blessed beyond belief. As we always say, man, I'm doing way better than I deserve. And that's just thanks to the Lord for that. So.
Yeah. So
What
to
an
stay,
intro.
I know, right?
That was
Gosh.
awesome. I'm going to
You
stop
just-
introducing guests from now on. And I think I'm just going to start asking them to intro themselves.
They do a better.
was-
People know themselves.
That was
typically,
great.
so,
That's
yeah.
true. Well, I would hope you know yourself.
So staying right there, just because I have the benefit of knowing part of your story, you have I think it's unique. Maybe it's not. You have a very unique, like origin story in terms of how you came to be on staff 1122 and ultimately the campus pastor at the flagship campus, the broadcasting campus.
That's
all
definitely
of
the
those
flagship
things.
campus.
It sounded very official.
It is.
So I went with it.
First campus.
But yeah, so and you don't have to give us the the 25-minute version, but if you could just maybe take a couple minutes and share that, because I don't know, I get tickled by it every time. I think people will get a kick out of it.
I love it. Well, look, so I do got to crank back just a little bit in the story. So I'm privileged and blessed enough to have a legacy, be part of my grandfather on my mom's side. So my mom's dad was a Methodist pastor. And so she grew up in that environment. My dad went into the ministry to be a pastor when I was 3. And so been blessed by the Lord to grow up in church. And for the longest time, people would say, hey, man, that's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to do. And I kind of, as many of us do when we get into the high school, college years, I kind of stiff armed that and said, no, that's not what I want to do. But the Lord just has a way of tracking you down and
That's
chasing
true.
you down. And so when we were living in Seattle with my wife and I, just through a sequence of events, I ended up on staff at a church there. Just couldn't deny anymore what God was calling me to do. And really began the journey to figure out exactly what my role was. 1 Corinthians 12 says that we're all part of a body. Each part is unique in and of itself. And so I just, I had to determine what my part of the body was. And so moved to Jacksonville, got plugged in at Beach United Methodist, was not on staff. The church of 1122, or actually the service at 1122 starts, and Lon and I just jump in and start serving because we love people, we love Jesus, and we want people to hear about him. And so began to serve, went on staff at Beach United Methodist, and was helping out in groups, helping people get connected in the groups, which for a highly relational, I care about people a whole lot, seemed like that would be a good fit. But it's not. But it wasn't. That's helping people find groups is really sometimes a process-driven role, but that just is not who I am. And so,
you were good at that, though. Like, not to say, we have personal experience. Shauna and I started a group, and you and Lon came over and really helped us make sense of it. So at least from my experience, you were good at it.
It's so not.
I understand that might not have been your calling, but
No,
Chad, were you at Beach at the same time that Chris was on staff there?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's funny. The only reason I know how long 1122 is a thing, started as a service, is we went there. I can't remember if I've told this story in the podcast or not, but we went there when Pierce was 3. When he was a toddler, that kid was a handful. And so we were kind of looking for a church, and we were kind of tired of visiting places. And so we had a friend of ours, Chris Joslin, was in the band, and he's like, hey, y'all should come check it out. There's some people here, from high school, whatnot. You should come and just check it out and see if you like it. So we came, and I remember walking across the parking lot, coming in, and I turned to Shauna and I say, hey, if they have a decent kids ministry and they preach the Bible, I don't know if I said remotely preach the Bible or kind of preach the Bible or however I said it. They preach the Bible.
They could reference
Let's
it.
just stay here. And she says, yeah, agree, deal, whatever. And so we go and we check Pierce in, and it's like, Disneyland. Like, you can tell they're just all having fun, super bright colors, lots of stuff, kids running around. It was great. And so we checked him in very kind of apprehensively because we're like, it's only a matter of time before they call us out of the service. So we check him in. We go. Worship was awesome. I mean, Ben Williams, he led worship at the church like I went to like when I was in high school and stuff. Did a lot of youth group stuff there, and so we knew him leading worship. It was great. I had never met Joe before, didn't know who he was, but he got up there, started talking about the Georgia Bulldogs, and just I don't remember the sermon, but I remember being very impressed.
So
by
not
it,
even the Bible, just Georgia Bulldogs.
Well, I mean, it started with the Bulldogs, but he eventually got to the sermon, and it was very, it was Joby, right? It was straight from the Word. He was going after it. He was on fire, and we just we were overwhelmed and went to go pick Pierce up afterwards. Kind of doing this number, like what are we gonna find? And we went there. And we come to pick him up, and they were like, he was great. And we're like, okay, awesome. And it was just like from start to finish, it was a great day. And we just, we never looked anywhere else. And, we've been going there ever since. So, and Chris, I think you were there at that point. Yeah. So that was 2008-ish, 2008, 2009, something like that.
Yeah. And so honestly, Chad, your story, you just multiply that out times, thousands, and that's folks' story. And it's the story for Lon and I, right? So we started going to beach, and the service starts, and we just jump in, all the way, as much as we can and help out. And so I had the opportunity to be on staff at beach and help out with groups. And in 2011, the conversation began about launching the Church of 1122 as its own, as its own church. Beach is going to launch 1122 out as a church. And so I had a conversation with Pastor Joby about, honestly, man, it goes somewhere along the lines of, hey, I know you're picking teams, you're dividing up staff, you're figuring out what you're going to do. And Chad, I thank you for your great affirmation there. But honestly, between Pastor Joby and I, we both said, hey, look, man, my work at Beach, I would have graded myself maybe a C minus. And Pastor Joby said, wow, it's kind of being generous, isn't it? And so we both knew
wow.
We both knew I didn't do a great job.
Whoa.
But what he did say was, hey, listen, we're going to launch 1122, and we're going to start with 18 people on staff. He said, you would be number 23. And in the moment, my only response was, so you're saying there's a chance? And but the reality was, I said, that's no problem. We're going to come to 1122 because we cannot. It's Acts level ministry for us. We cannot stop talking about what we've seen and heard, and it was just the life transformation that was happening just in front of us that God was doing was incredible. And so we simply said, I said, no problem, man. Well, we're coming to 1122. And he said, great. At that point, I was the guy at the beginning that would welcome folks in. And he said, you just keep doing that. And to all the folks out in the congregation, it'll look the same. He said, we're just not going to pay you. And I was like, no problem. You don't need to pay me. And so we began a relationship, and that was in September of 2012. And he said, come to every staff meeting, be involved. You just not paid. So I called myself the UPS man. I was the unpaid staff guy, and I just, I showed up. But Chad, you would know this. The Church of 1122 launched with, over 3,300 people attending the first week. And my question to Pastor Joey, Pastor Stone, and Pastor Ben was, hey guys, how are you going to care for these people? I tend to not say I'm not a smart guy, but math, 3,000 folks and 3 pastors, I just don't know how that's going to work. Is there a way that I can help out? And so I just simply said, listen, can I go to the hospital when someone's in the hospital, and can I pray for people? Can we just put a team together that we could do those two things to kind of help shoulder some of the burden? And so, yeah, sure, Chris, go ahead. You can do that. So in September, we started along that journey. A couple of weeks in, Pastor Joby and I talked about what it meant to be a chaplain, to actually be certified or ordained as a chaplain. So when we went to the hospital, or when I went to the hospital, it had some credibility behind it.
Yeah.
So by December, I had taken some classes and done some work to be ordained and licensed as a chaplain. So I became a chaplain. And then in February, Pastor Joby and I had a great conversation, which somewhere along the lines of, hey, man, we weren't planning on, this is a role that we weren't planning on filling for quite some time, but what you're doing is what God created you to do. And we could really use that help on staff. And so by March, I was on staff. And then from there, honestly, man, we have just tried every day to do those two things: visit with people in times of need and pray for them when they are when they're in pain or when they're hurting. And it's grown. It's grown, man. So Chad, you would know, man, we created a care team to which there's I don't know, somewhere between 900 and 1,000 people that have been trained in that material, and that are actively at all of our campuses, that they have teams that just love on folks and walk with them through things. And part of that was what aided in my transition from chaplain or care team pastor for all of 1122 to specifically thinking about San Pablo and the folks that come there. And so it is I never would say that I felt like I was a risk taker or an adventurer, in the sense of, I feel like I'm pretty risk adverse. Like I'm very steady in my in the way I approach life. But when I look back and think, wow, you really just said you don't need to pay me? And I was like, yeah, I guess those words came out of my mouth. And so, but I believe it. And, I think you guys would attest to it too, Chad and Justin, that it's true, man. If you understand and uncover who God made you to be, and the phrase really is true: find what you love to do, and you'll never work a day in your life. When you tap into that, when you uncover that, there's just nothing else like it. And so when people say to me all the time, they say, "Hey, there's no way I could do what you do," and I say, "You're absolutely correct. You can't. God did not make you to do what I do. He made me to do what I do. You do what you do." And I'm not trying to be Justin. I'm not trying to be Chad. I'm not trying to be Pastor Joby. I'm just trying to be the best that I can be with what God gave me. And I've been blessed enough to, again, good Lord, live in a beautiful place, surrounded by friends and people that we love to do this with, and we get to see things happen every single day that are just phenomenal. So I love it. So, man, take little steps of faith and do what you love to do, and try to glorify God and all that, and who knows what will happen. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, it's a great story, and I never tire of hearing about it. And I think it's for a couple reasons. One is you were just like, "Hey, I'm doing this. You pay me or not." Like I'm here.
I love that.
I'm the UPS guy, like you were saying.
I'm gonna tell you right now, if Pastor Joby and I would have a conversation and he'd look at me like, "Listen, you're 23," I'd be like, "It's good knowing you, sir. Bye." Like I feel dehumanized. Like Pastor Joby and I love his preaching. I respect the snot out of that man, but I'll tell you right now, he intimidates the absolute snot out of me. He would say 23, I'd be like, "Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir." Like, woo, good for you.
I know. Well, and it's part of the, and I think hopefully, you guys and anybody that watches or listens would understand this. You have moments in life where the approach is, it doesn't matter what's in front of me. I'm doing this thing. So yeah, I would imagine both of you, as I did, I had a moment where I'm in this relationship with this girl, and I think, I'm going to buy a ring. Like this is it. And there's nothing that's going to stand in my way. Like I'm going to do whatever I can to do it. It doesn't matter what anybody says. And so I think for me, and honestly, Lon's in it with me too. So for both of us, that was a moment for us to go, I don't know, man, God's doing a thing. And why for a job or a paycheck would I move away or would I distance myself from what that thing is? I can say that now. I mean, 10 plus years on the other side of that. Yeah, certainly in the moment, it was a little like unnerving. But And we have seen God be so faithful to us in the past. There's no reason. The Bible says He's the same, so He's gonna he's gonna be faithful as we move forward, which gives us the confidence, to try to work through the fear. So First John tells us, right, that perfect love casts out all fear. And so when my wife and I understand that we love each other and we're committed to one another, and I'm not talking about your ooey gooey emotional, I'm talking about like that committed to one another.
Covenant love.
Yeah, bro. So what are we afraid of? Like let's go. So literally one of the things for us is let's just go on an adventure. This adventure that we have called life, that we get to do right now, and we get to do it together. Looking back now, I was like, well, that was kind of crazy, but but God, if He wouldn't have moved in that situation, He was going to move in another to lead us to be able to do what we're doing now. And it's super fun. It's incredible. But yeah, man, as often as I get a chance to tell it, every time I think, boy, I really was kind of dumb, but 2 kids, no paycheck. That's great. God's going to work it out. No problem.
No worries.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask, what were you, so in the season where you said, yep, no paycheck, I'm rolling, I'm full steam ahead, watch this, I'll move from 23 to 17. What were you doing in the second? I mean, you do had 2 kids and a wife to provide for,
sure.
And while God is good, you do have to work.
That's right.
So what were you doing on the side there?
That's great. So in 2007, so again, part of the longer version of our story, right? In 2007, we moved to Jacksonville, and I had been on staff at a church in Seattle, but really, man, there was a thing inside that the God was working in our hearts about Southern religious culture. I'm not talking about Jesus loving culture. I'm talking about like I go to church because grandma told me to go to church, or
Creasers.
Yeah, bro. I just wasn't ready to jump back into that, and so I thought, well, I need a job. So I wrote down on a piece of paper. I just said, well, what are the things that I like to do? I like to be around people. I like a flexible schedule. I want to impact my community. Eventually I said, I'm going to have some kind of sales job, because that's exactly what those things are. Well, in 2007, I probably not, again, maybe not the smartest move, but I got involved. I got into real estate.
Okay. Before 08. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah.
So as everybody's bailing out, I'm jumping on. I'm like, why is everybody leaving the ship? This is, but what happened was, I connected in with some guys that were working through, as banks were working through all the assets that they had. I began to work with banks. And so I began to value homes, and I began to sell homes for banks as they were working through that. So by the time we get to 2012 and 13, or 11, 12, and 13, as the church is beginning to roll out, I had, a good business that we were running, a good office that we were working with. It was just myself and one other guy. And we had work to do. And I remember making the statement to my wife when all that transition was happening. And because I said, hey, we're going to go to 1122, but they're not paying us and we're not on staff. And she said, okay, well, what happens? I said, well, we have enough inventory. Like we had enough homes in the inventory that we were trying to sell. I said, we have enough in our inventory. If we got no more inventory from a bank or from anybody else, and we just sold what's in our inventory, we could probably last 9 months to a year.
Okay.
If that was it. Again, you just got to watch the things that you say out loud, because that would have been probably like June, July of 12. I think we got one more house until the end of 13. Right. And so it was like, and honestly, what happened was what really truly was happening was the Lord we sold off all of that, and the real estate fell aside. I still have my license. I mean, I might help somebody, one friend, like in the last 3 years, I think I've helped like one person buy or sell a home. But it was this moment of, hey man, that faded out. And then we were on staff at the church. And honestly, there's so much stuff that we're doing right now with the church. It's more fun to do what we're doing with the church than what we're doing the real estate side. But yeah,
Absolutely.
Man, it was real estate. I did have a moment where I sat down with one of our elders, excuse me. And he was in insurance, and I said, hey, what does it take for me to get an insurance license? Like I was willing to do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we were doing the real estate thing, which again, put me in my community, help me be around people, help
Yeah.
me engage. And so it was fun. But yeah, man, we did have moments where, the Lord worked in us in the financial side of just trusting him. Moments, I don't know if either one of you had, like, something shows up in the mail that you weren't expecting, that covers exactly what you need to go. Oh,
I
yeah.
have.
Yeah.
I've had that moment.
Yeah. So we had one January, it was a February, in an escrow. You overpaid into your escrow, and we didn't know that.
Surprise.
Right. And so I remember standing in the kitchen, and it really was a really pivotal moment. We opened the envelope, and there's a substantial check in there. And both my wife and I just kind of look at each other, and we just weeping and we're hugging in the kitchen. And of course, my kids are like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "God's just good, man." I said, I don't. Why do we doubt when? Why do we have fear? Like I'm not saying that we're reckless and crazy. I'm just saying, man, he has a plan and he shows up. When we're faithful, he's faithful. Actually, he's faithful even when we're not faithful.
Yes.
He's just faithful all the time. And so, so then, I mean, we phased out the real estate side of that, and it's just full time at the church. So it's been good.
Cool.
So yeah, so that's, I mean, it's a great story because it's super inspirational, but at the same time, like, you were hustling, I mean, you're like, okay,
The grind is real.
taking off the care hat, putting on the real estate hat, going to work. And,
yeah. Now, man, we run, I think as dads, right? Sometimes you run this, I don't know, man. The whisper that can come to you is that, hey, you're working too much. You should spend more time with your kids. Hey, you're doing too much, right? And yet the justification in my soul sometimes goes, yeah, but I need to provide, but I need to do those things. And so what we began to talk about in our family was seasons and rhythms. And so we began to really look at the calendar and be intentional with, okay, hey, look, man, if my kids are involved in sports and I want to be there for most of them, okay, guys, there's a trade-off here. So you just know, hey, because we're going to do, Friday night and Saturday or Saturday mornings with your thing, I'm going to have to give up a Sunday afternoon because I got to do some work, that kind of thing. So we just began to have that. We began to have that conversation, the invitation of inviting our kids into that conversation so that they would know, like, hey, man, this is why I'm doing this. And it's not so we can have better stuff, but we do want to enjoy the time that we have together. And so, hey, I do these things. And then honestly, some of that too is, hey, kids, you have a part to contribute. Mom has a part to contribute. I have a part to contribute. And we do that. But yeah, man, we're I don't know who said it, but I'll sleep when I die. I mean, like we're just going, we're just going to go for it, which is super fun.
So how old were your kids when that transition from beach groups to 11, that 9-month moment, then to 11:22?
Yeah. So let's see. So when 11:22 started, my kids were 7 and 4, and so they would have been 11 and 8, so right around in there. So 11 and 8. So pretty, about to exit 5th grade, step into middle school, and right in the middle of elementary. And
there's a fun time to have mom and dad do a quick career shift. So I want to ask. So we had a guest on. Chad, what was that? His episode aired like 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah. We had recorded him well in advance, but you might know the name, you might not. Wade Joy. I don't know if you've heard Wade. He did worship with Elevation Church for a while.
Okay.
And then he just recently transitioned out. So we got lucky. I sent a DM off and was like, I don't know, whoop. And he replied back and was like, I'm down. I want to talk dad stuff. I was like, okay, here. All right, here we go. And then he dropped a lot of goodness. But we asked him, we're like, so what's it look like with your kids as you transitioned off of the role that you were in, and obviously job security and everything that comes with that into. And so he really opened up a good bit about kind of bringing his kids into the conversation as he and his wife went through it. And so I kind of wanted to offer that same question to you. And I know 7 and 4 or
11 and 11.
Sorry,
8.
so I had that wrong. Yeah.
That's right.
But those younger ages might look a bit like 2 of his daughters were like in middle school, high school. So that's a little bit easier, I think, for some of those. But I have a 1-year-old, so right now, we don't bring her into any conversation unless it's, "Are you hungry?" And she like does this or kind of bobs a little bit. So, but anyway, just if you're willing, or I don't know, how'd that look as far as, all right, Daddy's gonna be working a lot more, and here's what we're praying for, and like
Right,
God's doing a thing
for sure. Well, some of that too, I'll have to back up, because honestly, man, we all are products of our own upbringings, right? And so, in other words,
Okay.
I look at my parents, I look at how they handled, like, we knew things, like kids are. By the way, your kids are smart. Like, your kids are smart. They pick up on all kinds of cues. They know, they can sense all of those things. And so, I don't know why you would try to hide anything from them. Like, they know, they got a sense of it. So, like, from my parents, right, it was like, hey, we knew things were going on, and they would at times give us the information, but not always. And some of it, now as being a dad, right, I understand, oh man, they literally were protecting us from, like, they were protecting my brother and sister and I, they were protecting our hearts for the church. Right. So never wanted to come in and be like, oh my God, and really badmouth the bride, because I don't want my kids to be influenced like that. And so we had to, but I also wanted to know, like, golly, I always wondered what was going on. So for Alana and I, we just, if at all possible, I always say, if at all possible, I'm going to say yes. So if at all possible, I want my kids to be in. I want them to know. And so at 11 and 8, it really was the conversation of, hey, look, you enjoy going to church, just like Pierce is, when he went for the first time, even at 3, right, had a great time. You saw both of my kids come to what it meant that Jesus did for them what they could not do for themselves. And both of my kids surrendered their lives to Jesus through the ministry of 1122, had the great opportunity to baptize both of them. And so they're much a part of 1122 as my wife and I. So it's not, honestly, it's not, I mean, like, we go as a family, and then to watch the progression of them grow and mature in their faith, just as my wife and I are in ours. That was the invitation. And so honestly, man, Chad, you would get this too, Justin. My approach is not that, well, honestly, I do serve the bride at 1122. It is an employment place for me, but that's secondary to the fact that I'm in this movement. Like I'm a sheep first and foremost, and then God's called me to shepherd. But I come to the table. I come on Sunday. Actually, I attend all 3 services. But I come on I come on Thursday night, Bible open, pen in hand, going, Lord, I'm here to learn and to listen. And so the conversation to our kids was, hey, this thing that we're involved in, that God's doing, that's so exciting. We actually are blessed to be employed there, and that's what we're hoping and praying for. And so honestly, seriously, it all happened so fast. I don't know if there was intentionality between, July and February when we were actually on staff. We just were trusting the Lord. And some of it truly was, I don't know. It's kind of, man, if I backed up, when we moved from the end of 2006, beginning of 2007, we moved from Seattle to the Jacksonville area. Same kind of thing. It was like, I didn't have a job. I had 2 kids. We just packed everything up, and we was like, all right, we're moving. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I need sweet tea, fried chicken, and sunshine, and I can't get that in Seattle. And
Amen.
Sweet tea. What is sweet tea?
Sweet tea is nectar from heaven, second after beer. So,
that's that was it. And so, I think, Chad, we've talked about some, right, where I think back in, now being 21 and 18, and we just, man, so timing. So we just had someone today, some really dear friends of ours today. Had a guy give me a call. He said, hey, can you call me? So I called him, and he said, I got a really kind of an awkward question for you. He said, my wife and I were sitting down, and he said, getting to do some transitions, in the place where I'm transitioning from, they're helping us out. They're willing to write a will for us. And he said, we don't have a living will at the moment, so we're going to write one. And he said, and we thought about what would happen to our kids. They have 3 kids. What would happen to our kids if both of us were to pass away? He said, now that's a very sobering thought. He said, but he said, you and Lon's name were the first names that came out of our mouths. And he said, it's because he said, because you love our kids, and we've seen the way that you love your kids, and we see that the way your kids, honestly, man, we just love spending time together as a family. And so he said, we see the way that your kids love you. And if something were to happen with us, we would love for you guys that you would be guardians for our kids. And so, so I said, hey man, I can never make a decision without talking to my wife first, specifically one like this. I
It's
said,
a big one.
That's wise counsel.
I said, let me talk to her. And so I walked in the door and I said, hey, you know, I got a call and said, this is the question. And she kind of teared up a little bit, and same as I would, for the exact same reason. Simultaneously, one, I would never wish that would happen to anybody, that both parents would be gone. But two, that they would consider us, and we do love their kid. Like, I mean, for sure, man, I'm going to say yes. But some of it is because of the way that we just loved our kids. And I don't know if we set out and wrote down on paper, these are the 5 things that we're going to do with our kids, but we just, in our way, adopted some things that we were very intentional about. One was, this is going to sound, this might sound crazy or not. When my kids were in elementary school, we just said, we'll do whatever it takes that both of us would drop them off and pick them up. So at drop off and pickup time in elementary school, it was my wife and I. You could probably count maybe on 2 hands the amount of times that it wasn't. But we just made that. And honestly, it was 3 minutes from our house. We rode bikes sometimes, we drove cars sometimes, but there was, and in that ride, it was, tell me something good that happened at school today. You know what I mean? Like, we just try to engage a little bit, even from, you know, you think 6 to 11, right? And then once they hit middle school, they were riding the bus, and that kind of fell off. Every sporting event that we could go to, I remember my daughter Presley, love her. She was playing girls flag football at high school, and so we went to the local high school here, where the football field stadium. It's a stadium, right? It's concrete, could hold, I don't know, Chad, what do you think? A couple thousand folks.
Sure.
There's maybe 10 in the whole stands, and my wife and I are sitting next to each other, just losing our minds, screaming.
That's great.
And then we looked at each other and we started laughing, and I said, are we really sitting here on a Tuesday afternoon, freezing to death, yelling at girls flag football? We're the only people in the thing. And we both said, yes, we are. Why? Because I don't know, that's my kid. She's out there, and I want her to know, hey man, that I love you, and we're going to support you and do all those things. And so, you know, I have, Chad, you may have heard me say this before. There was really only a couple of things that I wanted to teach my kids. Part of that is the invitation, which you were talking about earlier, as we go through life transitions, because I wanted it baseline to love Jesus. So aside from that, right, I want them to know what it means to experience that relationship with him. But aside from that, really 2 things. One, I wanted my kids to know how to solve a problem. And 2, I wanted them to know how to make a decision. And honestly, I could combine both of those things into one thing, which is confidence. I just wanted them to be able to know, hey, you're going to be faced with things in life that you're just not, you have to know how to solve that problem. So, you know, to my daughter who's in Columbia, South Carolina, going to school, when she walks outside and there's a flat tire, what are you going to do? How are you going to do that? I'll teach you how to change the tire for sure. And a phone call to me is an option, but what are you going to do? How are you going to work through that? And so, part of that was just confidence. I wanted my kids to have confidence. And so there was a couple things. So we, with them, go to all the sporting events. If at all possible, we would say yes. And then we were just intentional to spend time together, played games together, laughed together, do all the crazy things together. And so back to your question of how did we invite them into that? We just didn't hold anything back, and we were just like, hey man, here's as appropriately as we could to an 11 and 8-year-old. Hey, here's what we're walking through. Here's what we're doing. So that was a long answer for that little question.
So to as if we didn't speak on this enough already. So to continue on with that, one of the things, and I actually credit Shauna for this question. She was curious what you'd say to this. But as we have a son who is transitioning, out of his high school days into what lies beyond that. How was that transition for you? So you've gone through that twice now, where you've had a child who, graduated high school, moving into college, and so what do you do well? What are some lessons learned? Like, how's that whole thing been? Over?
Yeah. different with both, for sure. I think and because both of my kids have they have different personalities. If you have multiple kids, you would notice and see the difference in personalities that they have. Justin, even at one, you're going to see your child has a personality, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
She does. Yeah.
She doesn't. She has two personalities. We have Amelia, who is normal, happy, and we have Emilia, and that's her evil side. We got that. We got that at dinner tonight. Somebody did not want her salmon and potatoes.
I
So
love it. I love it. So when Presley, when she went to school, she chose to go to the University of South Carolina, go Cox. And so love that she made that choice. Part of that was because she was establishing who she was on her own, right? So my wife and I both went to Florida State. My brother went to Florida State. My sister went to Florida State. My brother-in-law, my father-in-law. We have tons of people at Florida State. And so my daughter was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to South Carolina. So we check her in. She's an honor student. So we go in her dorm. We check her in her dorm. And everything's settled, and we're kind of standing there. And she starts crying. No, my wife and I are looking at each other like, oh boy. We thought it was we thought it was going to be the opposite of that, right? So, we hug, we pray for her, and we leave. We go downstairs, we walk outside around the corner where we're pretty sure like her window is not facing us, and we just give each other a high five, right? We're like, sweet, we totally did it.
We did it. Yes.
Like we got one of them out.
Great.
it's hilarious.
So Cooper, so that's this year. So you're right. Like that's just a couple of weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, somewhere around in there. Yeah, he makes a decision. Hey, I'm going to Florida State, which is awesome. And so we go to drop him off, and it's different. It's just boy, girl, that whole relationship, mom, son. It's just different. And we have had so the last couple of years from us, have been some roller coaster of things. My dad passed away 2 years ago. My father-in-law passed away last year. Ooh. Right at August. So this August moment, so we're about to check my son in as a freshman, and we're going to pass the 1-year anniversary of my wife's dad passing away. So there's just a heavy emotional moments inside of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not. Sometimes I have said in my life some pretty dumb stuff. One of which, when my son was born, so 2004. We're in the Seattle area. She gives birth. He's out. They're cleaning him off. I lean over and I kiss her, and I was like, "Great job, baby. You did a wonderful job. What are you doing 18 years from now?" And she said, "What?" And I was like, "Listen, I love our kid, but I'm kind of into us." And so last year about this time, I started to remind her of that. I was like, "Hey, remember when I said that thing?" She was like, "Yes, I remember when you said that." Not your brightest moment. So we get ready to drop him off. Just tons of things that are going on. And I said to him, "Hey, buddy, I love you. You've done a great job. You're going to do great. What's my phone number?" He looked at me and I said, "What's my phone number?" So he said my phone number. I said, "Repeat it for me, please." So he said it again. He goes, "Why are you asking me that?" I said, "Because you're going to lose your phone, and I need you to know what my phone number is so you can call me from
Amen
somebody
and
else's
amen.
phone."
I still have my mama's number memorized.
Dude. So same deal, right? We, we hug and we pray and we leave. We get in the car and we drive back, and we get all the way back from Tallahassee. We pull in the driveway, and I turn off the car, and I said, "Well, baby," I said, "you did a great job." I said, "You birthed them." I said, "You kept them alive for 18 years." I was like, "Way to go." And that was the moment that it was like, the crack in the Hudson Dam or whatever, the Hoover Dam. Like it was like, that was the moment the tears came through. That was the moment of holy crap. And she was like,
"Okay,
I feel like I don't have a job anymore." To which I said, "Remember the conversation 18 years ago?" I was like, "Baby, you got a job.
See you and me."
Right. And so we're still journeying through it, man. There have been a couple things that have happened where I'm so proud of them. Presley lost her. She went tubing in the Columbia River and lost her car keys, her apartment keys, her college ID, and her driver's license. Ooh. And the great part was she texted to tell us that. And then the next text said, it's going to cost me this much to get my ID. I've already got an appointment on Monday. It's going to cost me this much to get my driver's license back. I've already filled out the paperwork. I've already got a copy of my apartment key made from Allie, and I need you to send me my spare car key if it's at the house. And I thought, that's my girl. I was like,
That's impressive.
she encountered a thing, and she already had all that taken
That's
care of.
awesome.
And so, super proud moment. But I would have jumped in the car and driven the 4.5 hours if she needed me to be there. You know what I mean? Like I would have done that, but she totally took care of it. So man, it's been it is kind of refinding what Lon and I are walking through. What does it mean to be just back us again? It opens up our schedule a little bit more. We can engage in different ways, and we're really excited about it. But proud of my kids and was grateful. I'm the guy between she and I'm the one that's like, thank you, Lord, great job. And and she's still journeying through that's my baby, and those are my kids. But she'll always do that, no problem. And then I'll do that as a dad. I'm super proud of him, but I am kind of like, I like the emptiness so far. I like it so far. So it's good.
Man, so any big surprises? I mean, so you were prophetic from, the birth.
That's right.
Prophetic.
The birth of your son. Hey, what are you doing 18 years from now? So
That's right.
So that was not a surprise, but like anything, like kind of in hindsight, you look back and you're like, that was harder than I thought it would be, or that was easier than I thought it would be. Anything
Yeah.
Talk.
like
I'm just
that?
kidding.
Buddy, your body's changing. Yeah, so with Cooper, for both of my kids at different points went through kind of not a crisis of who they were, but they both had transitional moments. In other words, Presley, her sophomore year, came to the realization she loved to play volleyball. She was, club volleyball, and then also at her school. But she realized at school, if there's a 12-man squad, she's number 12. And so she loved it. She loved the team camaraderie. She loved being part of it. But what she realized was like, hey, man, I have a choice to make, and it's going to be academics or it's going to be volleyball. And she's like, look, I ain't playing volleyball in college. She's like, so I'm gonna gear towards academics. Okay, that was 30 seconds, but that journey that took a minute, right? A lot of tears, a lot of trust in the Lord. So watching her walk through that, I was like, wow, I didn't expect that at 15. Let's just say that, right? 15, 16. I was like, wow, I wasn't prepared for that. At Cooper, gymnast for 9 years. From the time he was, 7, 8, right? And good. Progressed all the way up, was competing at level 10 gymnast, right?
Wow.
Qualified for the U.S. Junior Nationals and is competing in the U.S. Junior Nationals in his second event. Tears his ACL, so blows his knee out, right? Doesn't even get to compete. That's his junior year of high school. Well, man, to repair an ACL that you blew out in May, that's going to take you a whole year. So he loses his senior year of competing and all of the things that come along with that, right? So Florida gymnastics boys, they do a great job honoring the boys and sending them off and all those things. And yet he had to come to the realization, the same thing, right? Like gymnastics doesn't define me. It's a part of who I am. It's part of what I did, but God, God's going to use that in a different way. And so what happened with him was he was able to do some things at school that he'd never been able to do because he's practicing 6 days a week. So now he's not, and he gets to do friends and clubs, and he gets a job, and he gets to this transition to what I would say college was a little bit easier because of that. Where I was bummed and grieved, both Lon and I had to grieve, both of my kids giving up those sport areas. As parents, it was like, I think that was tougher for me to realize, like, oh crap, but he's never going to do that again. He's like, he's going to give his grips away because he's not going to swing on the high bar again. He's not going to do that. Right. And I'm like, holy cow. Right. didn't realize that was going to weigh as much as it did. But watching them both kind of go through those and loving and supporting them in it. And so in the way life happens, Presley goes to South Carolina, gets on an intramural team, and her second semester she's there, her intramural team, co-ed volleyball team, wins the intramural championships, at the University of South Carolina. So I'm just laughing, right? And then she's plugged into all kinds of stuff up there and sporting events, whatever. Cooper goes over, and much to my being a proud dad, because I had the opportunity to do this, he applied or tried out for, and he's now part of the Florida State University Flying High Circus. And so he's going to get to put some of those gymnastic skills, back into play, which will be super fun too. So, yeah, man, watching both of my kids walk through death of a vision, I think, if you would say, or the realization of maybe a dream that they had not working out, and seeing them both process and work through it. Yeah, it was probably a little bit more difficult than I thought it would have been. It was it was definitely life-changing for all of us, certainly for the two of them, but yeah, for all of us. And so I don't think I would change. I wouldn't change anything about the way we walked that with them. And honestly, I would let them do it again. I want to protect my kids, but I also want them to experience what we experience in life, right?
And what a testament to the way that you guys have raised them. So each of them having to walk through that. And I know there's, there's nature and nurture, right? Like there's part of that was just in them, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, I give y'all credit for, for a good piece of that, right? So that's great.
And that we certainly, and I think you guys would agree, right? We stand on the shoulders of those before us. So for my parents and then her parents as well, letting us kind of go through what we went through and journey through. Like when we say, hey, listen, we're going to move back to the South, but we don't have a job and, don't have anywhere to live. And my father-in-law was like, you could come stay with me. You can just come live with me. Yeah, you can just do that. And so, I think in our world today, the family, right? Mom, dad, brother, and sister is I hate to say it's a unique thing now, right? The people would look at us and go, "What? You like to hang out together? You like to spend time together?" It seems weird. And I'm like, well, that's fine. I'll take that. I'll take weird.
Yeah. And while you were talking, I was gonna bring that up. Like, you don't see that a lot, but you guys look like you just enjoy each other's company, which I know it's like, because I've had people mention that before, and it's like, wait a minute, but husband and wife, like, isn't that what we're supposed to do? But like, I remember, observing you guys. I think it was up at the retreat center or something like that, and just y'all, it was just something simple like enjoying a laugh or something like that. Yeah. And it was, I remember I was like, yeah, that's really cool.
Well, we had said, man, I appreciate that. When we got, when Lon and I got married, people say, oh, what's your goal, dream, family motto? And this is real spiritual. So our family motto was to have fun. And we would just say, if we're not having fun with what we're doing, we're just going to change what we're doing. Because, man, we just, and listen, that's a high level statement, but it is founded on some really deep principles of, we understand where our joy comes from. We understand who God made us to be and where that is. But we really do just we like to laugh and have fun together. And, it's, oh gosh, I mean, we don't have a very big house. It's about 1,600 square feet, but man, there's a lot of places to hide in here, and you can scare people pretty good. And so there's some definite moments of, oh yeah, there's some definite moments of, I can't believe you did that. Your mom's really mad because she jump scared her. All this stuff, man. It's fun. It's fun.
That is fun. That is one thing I passed on to my boys. It's just, and they're horrible at it, but well,
they try.
Jude is horrible at it. Pierce is getting there, but yeah, just hiding behind a door when it
Oh,
opens,
bro.
or just, waiting in the shadow. But
My
real quick,
stepdad
I
is
wanna
too good at it.
I wanna come back to something. So, Justin, I don't know if you heard, but
The
Pastor
flying
Chris
circus?
used to be in
Yes.
the circus.
I did hear
Like,
that.
we're
Like
not
the
we're
flying,
not
like
we're
the
not just
flying
gonna jump
Gracies.
past that.
All right, so
The world needs an explanation.
That's right. All right, so
Minister of the high rise.
that's right. The Florida State University Flying High Circus. So yeah, FSU has a circus. Started 76 years ago as a co-ed opportunity. So for boys and girls to be able to do extracurricular activity together. So I was part of that back in the early 90s, so 91 to 96, somewhere around in there. And it's a full circus, meaning flying trapeze, juggling teeterboard, all kinds of aerial acts and those type of things. And so I had a great time for 5 years doing that. Some of my dear friends have met and stayed in touch with while doing that, and never thought that honestly that Cooper, when he said FSU, I thought, man, maybe he'll go out for the circus. And so we just went, did parents weekend, and he's in the cast. It's about 100 students that are involved in the cast, and they practice all year. And really, they have 2 weekends in the spring where they really do shows. They do probably 8 shows over those 2 weekends. And freshmen, you can do an act, and sophomores can do 2 acts, and then juniors and seniors, you can get up to 3 or 4 acts. And super fun. They learn to juggle, learn to balance, learn to fly on trapeze. It was really, really fun. So I'm excited for him to be able to do it, and just the camaraderie, the discipline. It truly is a unique thing. There's only 2 circuses that are flying circuses, is what we call them, meaning they have trapeze and nets and aerial acts, and FSU is one of them. And it's pretty neat. It is. It was many years and pounds ago, is what we would say.
So what did you do? What did you do in a previous life?
Please say human cannibal. Please say human cannibal.
No way, man. Yeah, no.
Dang it.
Honestly, one of my favorite things was that we juggled. So I had a juggling team. There was 4 of us, and then I had a trapeze act. It's a lower trapeze act, so it was about I don't know, 6-8 feet off the ground, but you were swing back and forth and catch, and it was more of a kind of a comedy routine. Honestly, what part of what the circus does is it teaches you how to engage in front of folks. Chad, that would be no surprise to you that's what I get to do every time we gather together on the weekend. But part of that started when you stand in the center ring of a circus with 2,000 people watching you, and they say, okay, you have 5 minutes to do your act, and it's just, at that point it was me and 3 guys juggling. And if you watched us juggle, you would say, you guys are mediocre at best with your juggling. But we were A+ in entertainment. And so if we had 5 minutes, we maybe juggled for 45 seconds total. But boy, the way that we engaged with the crowd, that was part of the fun. So I did juggling and did, what is called teeterboard. It's kind of like a seesaw. You jump on one end and somebody flies off the other end. We had what's called a balancing ladder. So 25 feet in the air, you balance. One end is the guy balancing out while the girl on the other end does, some aerial tricks and things. And it's a revolving ladder, so it goes in a complete circle. And so you do kind of do that fun at the end. Did some balancing, did some low casting, which is again the kind of trapeze act. And then the great thing about the circus is it's student run. So the students rig everything. They put the tent up and down. They do all the electrical. They do all those things. Now it's come a long way in 25 years since I've been there, but it's a really neat thing. It's a pretty cool thing. You should, if honestly, from Jacksonville, or even from Atlanta, just look it up. They used to be part of Callaway Gardens. That was where they did that for the summer. So they haven't done that since COVID, since the pandemic. But it is definitely, the shameless plug for the FSU circus is definitely worth a springtime little trip over to Tallahassee to watch it. It's a unique thing. And they're really good. Yes, it's out there on YouTube, so you can totally YouTube, FSU circus. I would never send you the link, but it's out there. So
You know, Justin, you think you know a guy, and then you find out he was in the circus.
Find out he can juggle.
Hey, listen, I told my son, I was like, hey, learn how to juggle, because I have been waiting for like 20 years to be able to juggle with somebody. And if he learns how to juggle, he's going to come home and I'll be like, sweet.
Can you still juggle? Have you kept the skill sharp?
Yeah, for sure. That is a, now of course I need to practice, right? But that is definitely a thing that it's like riding a bike for sure, right? You don't give that up. And you gotta certainly
does Pastor Joby know you can juggle?
He does.
Ooh.
He does. That is not something that I'll be bringing out on stage, though.
I mean, what happens at Retreat Center, though, can stay at Retreat Center.
This is true. That's true. Yeah, that's one of those things. We think about as dads, right? You get around and you start telling things to your kids, and some things you might not necessarily look. We're going to stretch I'm not saying I'm lying to my kids, but I might stretch it a little bit. And so that's one of those things where you go, all right, I'm going to tell you 2 truths and a lie, and I'll throw in there. Yeah, I was in the circus.
Yeah.
People will be like, that's totally a lie. I'm like, no, that's totally the truth. And I have my grandfather was concerned because he actually thought that I quit school and ran away to be part of the circus. Carney. I think he thought it was
generational differences. Oh my. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, when Chad put in our show notes circus, I was like, wait, so this man was like full-time employed with a circus like Barnabas and Brothers or something for a while? Like, all right. Turned pastor? Former clown turned pastor?
No, we don't listen. No, well, I can't say that. We did not have clowns. The clowns came from somewhere else, so they
were imported.
That's right.
I don't mind saying it.
That's right.
It's my podcast.
We brought in the clowns.
We brought in the
no animals, no clowns.
There you go.
It's super fun. Yeah. You talk about just around the table conversations. Yeah, I was in the circus. Do what?
Well, hold up now.
That's right.
Cool.
No super fun.
We're gonna start wrapping this thing up, but I want to ask you 2 final things, and then we'll let you go back to caring for people, starting with your family as you go to bed. I don't know. I'm making assumptions here.
Right.
You might be a night owl. Who knows? The first thing I want to ask is, what is the impact of your dad on you? We all have them, whether they're good, bad, in between. And then what would be an encouragement you would like to leave with dads that are listening to this, and hopefully they've made it this far?
Yeah. So from my dad, man, just tons of things, right? A couple. I'll give you a couple. Let's say 3, right? So 1, my dad loved my mom. And there might have been times where I might not have agreed with him, or he might have got mad at me, or any of those things, but I never ever doubted the love that my dad had for my mom. It was honestly, growing up, it was kind of nauseating. It was like, what in the world? And only until I got married and had kids that I realized, oh my gosh. Because, we would come home from school and there'd just be a note that would say, hey, your mom and I went away. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon. Can you guys do these chores? And I'd be like, we'd be like, sweet, we can watch TV late till we went there. Only later did I realize my dad was investing heavily into his relationship with my mom. So he totally loved my mom. So that influence on me led me to say, hey, man, I want to do the same for my wife, just because I love her, but also for my kids. My dad also, not only did I love my mom, but he loved Jesus. And I have a picture on my phone. So when he passed away, his Bible, the first 3 pages of his Bible were filled with names. And it was names of people that he were praying for. And he was praying for them, and that they would encounter Jesus in the way that many people have encountered Jesus, and to understand that who Jesus is, and that Jesus did for us on the cross what I could not do for myself. And that when we put our faith and trust in that, what he did on the cross counted for us, that puts us in right relationship with him. And so my dad had a list 3 pages long of people that he was praying for. And the beautiful part about that list is that there are many of those names that have a line drawn through them and a date next to it of when they put their faith and trust in Jesus. And so one of the influences that my dad gave me was a love for my wife, and a love for Jesus, and a love for people, that they would come to know him. My dad's motto was taking people to heaven with me. he just understood that, man, what is life about? There's the only thing that you're going to take to heaven is people and praise. You're going to praise God for who he is and what he's done, and then just the people that you would share with. And so the influence from my dad is how much that he loved my mom translated to me to how much I love my wife and how I love her and what I do that for her. And then his love for people in Jesus and what that looked like. So I keep that picture on my phone all the time, and I just look at it and think, man, what a great legacy. Did he get it all right? No, man. And neither did I. And so if I were to, and I won't, and I haven't.
Good point, yeah.
But my encouragement to dads would say, hey, listen, man, you're never going to hit it 100% of the time. But listen, be intentional in your time with your wife. Love your wife. Love your kids. Be the first repenter. I mean, man, Justin, you're at one. Get on the floor and roll around and hug and tickle and love and laugh and enjoy the things because they're momentary. And what feels like is I'm in a ditch and I'm never going to get out of it. If you just hold on, man, you'll be 18 years down the road and thinking, crap, what are we doing 18 years from now? Right? I said that, right? Just the other day is what it feels like. So my encouragement would say, hey, man, keep it up. You can do it. I would also say, hey man, get some men, some other men around you, like, resources like this, like your podcast and other folks that would encourage you to walk. You don't have to do this thing alone. You're not out there alone. And be willing to say, hey man, I don't have it all together. And, love your wife, love your kids, love Jesus, and, trust him in that. He's going to build the church. Our role, first and foremost, to our wives, to our kids, and then to those that are around us. And so, man, dads, you can do it. It is not easy. Although it seems simple sometimes, it's just not easy, but it is so worth it to put in the hard work and the effort and energy. So love your wife, love your kids, love Jesus, love others. And that would be, and hopefully all of that glorifies God. That's what we're going for.
Amen.
Yes, sir. Well, Justin, I think that's a great note
That is.
to end it here.
Were there any dad jokes though before we do end it? Because Chad is a fan, and I feel like
That I am.
man, I feel like Pastor Cris here has them.
Listen, yes, I am absolutely a dad joke fan. Like, I mean, I'm into it. From the cheesy things like, the why are Saturday and Sunday the strongest days of the week? Because the rest are just weekdays. So things like that. Things that my kids know beyond a shadow of a doubt. Anytime someone says to me, did you get a haircut? My immediate response is,
I already know what's coming.
Is no, I got them all cut.
That's right.
So
Classic.
I'm like, the other one, and I'm into the puns, right? And
Or like, how did you sleep with my eyes closed?
I need to make a note to use that one in the morning.
Listen, I can completely discredit the entire podcast by saying it's Halloween. And so, well, never mind. Chad, you can ask me that one later. I'll tell it to you later. But one of the great personal family dad jokes. My wife's maiden name is Guy, G-U-Y.
Okay.
So Guy. So anytime we would get together with her family, we would walk through the door and they would say, how are you guys doing? And I immediately would say, we're not guys, we're Gerards. And so, for the longest time, anybody that would, we're not guys, we're Gerards. So you could say, hey, Gerards, how you doing? Just don't say, hey, guys, how you doing? So I am definitely, man, I'm into those.
So you're saying you married a long guy?
Oh.
Okay. All right. So truly, then you must have heard when people ask me if I meet someone new, they say, what do you do? And I say, I'm in lawn care and maintenance. And so then when they meet Lon, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe
this podcast is going places very quickly.
We should have ended it when I said so. This is
I'm leaving this all in. So Pastor Cris, I hope you're good with it. Which if you're saying this to people as you meet them,
oh, for sure,
we're fine. We're fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, look,
That's awesome.
She has endured all of those things for me over the time. But that again, that just adds to the fact that we just love each other and we like to have fun together, and
It's awesome.
even the dumb stuff. So it's great.
Awesome.
So for those that don't know, Chris's wife, her name is Lon.
I think
And
they
her
picked up
maiden
on
name
that
was
by now.
Guy. So Lon Guy. It writes itself. It really does.
So good. All right.
That's awesome. Well, if anything, I've had a great time. So
This is
we've
great.
enjoyed having you.
I feel like you really transitioned us. I really didn't need to come with any notes, anything planned, because we covered everything, and I may have said 2 words the entire time. So it was great. I had a great time.
Thanks.
I don't know about Justin. I had a great time.
It was awesome. Thanks for coming on. Honored to have you. Thanks for dropping wisdom and sharing laughs. Man, I know my soul needed that tonight. So
well, I appreciate it, guys. Y'all keep doing what you're doing, and keep loving your wives and your kids, and loving Jesus too.
yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Pastor. It's been great talking with you.
All right, fellas. See y'all.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. With that note, this dad report is closed.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can support us by sharing the show with your friends and family. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Want more of the Dad Report? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and even join the community over on Discord. Don't forget to send us your dad jokes for a chance to be featured on the show.
Remember the words of Billy Graham about fatherhood. A good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, and yet one of the most valuable assets in our society.
So if you are a dad, we're cheering you on. If you have a dad, be kind to him. And if you know a dad, tell him about our podcast.